Hello, I'm Paul, and this is Paul Plays with Fire. Welcome. Come on in, grab a chair. It's cold out there. Like I said, the weather outside is frightful. We have a full-blown blizzard going on. So what do Midwestern people do in this situation? We make comfort food. We make slow food. Food that takes all day to cook. Food that makes you feel good when you're making it and makes you feel good when you're eating it. We have some beautiful short ribs here today. And we're gonna give them a salt and pepper rub, a flour dredge. We're gonna brown them in the Dutch oven, and then we're gonna set them aside. Meanwhile, we'll add carrots, celery, garlic, and onions to make some delicious flavors in that pan. Then we're gonna deglaze that pan with a little red wine and add some tomato paste to it to add richness and depth. Then we'll add everything back into the pan and let it braise for about 3 hours while we go shovel snow again. Then we'll remove the meat from the bone. It's mostly falling off the bone anyway. We'll remove the meat from the bone, dice it up a little bit, add it back into the pot, add some lo mein noodles to it. Now that's comfort food. Let's get this party started. Oh, this is gonna be so good. Like I said, for starters, we're gonna take our beautiful spare ribs. Look at those things. Oh, so nice. We're gonna take our beautiful spare ribs and we're gonna give them a little salt and pepper rub on all sides. And then we're gonna let them sit for a little bit while we dice up our vegetables. And then after that, we'll dredge them in some flour. So I'll go ahead and rub these down real quick, and then we'll be back when it's time to cut up vegetables. Okay, we've got our ribs all salted up. Now we're gonna cut our carrots and celery and onions into Mirepoix sized pieces. What's a Mirepoix, you ask? It's a sofrito. What's a sofrito, you ask? Carrots, celery, and onions. It's a flavoring base that's used in many different cooking styles to flavor soups and stews. And it's just, you know, that by the time we get done here, you won't recognize any of these pieces of carrots and onions because they will have become a part of the soup. But you'll taste them. They're in there. And then we'll also, because we want some actually whole pieces of carrots and celery and onions in our stew, in our soup, we'll add some late in the game so that we get some whole recognizable vegetables in there, I guess, if you will. And I'm not being particular about how big I make these things, because like I said, they're all just gonna fall apart anyway. Do some celery now. Celery cuts pretty fast. And the onions, we don't have to be too careful about how we cook those up either. Like that, just that simple. There, we got our Mirepoix all cut up. Our sofrito, our celery, carrots, and onions. So, next time we see you, we'll be over at the stove. We are at the stove where we have our Dutch oven, our pumpkin, our ever faithful punk oven. It's getting ripping hot right now because we're ready to sear some meat, some spare ribs. So we've got a pan of flour, just regular white flour, and we're gonna dredge these ribs in there. They've been sitting on the salt and the pepper for a little bit now, so it's time to get them in some. We're gonna brown each one of these ribs on each side, so all 6 sides. So it'll take a little bit of time to get through that. Here, I'll show you my technique for dipping. I don't care if I spill a little bit of flour in the pan too, because some of it's going in the pan anyway. Basically just covering the whole thing. There, that is a nicely dredged rib. And into the pan she goes. Yep. We'll go 3 at a time. We're in no hurry. We got all day. Now I can smell the flavor starting to build already. We'll just turn those over a little bit. It was ripping hot, all right. That's okay. That's okay. That's where that flavor comes from. Well, our ribs are getting finished up with the browning phase. They're looking really good. We'll just get them out of there. There, look at that. And we'll set those aside while we dump our carrots and celery and onions into the pan and get that part going. This is going to be so good. We'll let that go for a little bit. Now we're going to add 2 small cans of tomato paste, or you could use 1 big can. 6-ounce cans of tomato paste. Stir all that up to coat everything. And it's getting that rich dark color. We'll just let that sweeten up for a little bit. Well, there, we've got that just about where we want it now. I was a little concerned. I got the meat a little hot and the Mirepoix was looking a little dark, but the tomato sauce brought it right around. Now we're going to deglaze that with about a cup of red wine. You wouldn't have to use wine for this. If you wanted to, you could use beef broth, you could use water, you could use tomato juice. I wouldn't use grape juice. Just something to add a little liquid to it and a little flavor. All right, that's looking really good. Let that cook for a little bit. Now comes the fun part. We're bringing it all back together. We're going to take our ribs and we're going to just nestle them into here as best we can. Maybe we'll add some liquid first. Now, if you're making just normal braised ribs that you'd serve like over mashed potatoes, here's where I would add about 4 cups of beef broth. But since we're making a soup out of it, a noodle soup, we're gonna add 8 cups of beef broth, and that extra liquid will be what makes what gives the noodles their liquid. So we'll add the noodles dry to this mixture, and the noodles will come away with their liquid from this beautiful, wonderful broth. And boy, you know that's going to be good. We'll add the other 2 ribs. We may wait on that second batch of broth until this cooks down a little bit, because you can tell we got a full pot. That's perfect. That's actually just what we want. This will sit and braise for a good 3 hours. Yep, that's about right. A good 3 hours, and then we may talk to you before then, but it's not going to be much because we're not going to do much with it except make sure it doesn't boil over. So we'll see you in a bit. I almost forgot, although we salted and peppered our ribs, we haven't really put any other seasoning on here. It doesn't need a whole lot, but since we have it, we're going to go ahead and just add some whole sprigs of thyme and rosemary. And we'll fish those stems out later. But they'll do a good job of seasoning the ribs as they braise for the next couple hours. And we don't need all that time. That's good enough. We'll go ahead and tuck that down in there, and then they'll just infuse flavor for the whole 2 hour or 3 hours that we cook. And just to be fair, I may add some liquids to this from time to time too, so don't be surprised when it doesn't boil down. Yeah, it's full pot. Okay, once again, see you in 3 hours. Well, our ribs in their braising sauce are doing a wonderful plop plop dance. They're just sitting here plopping away, and they have been for about 2.5 hours, I'd say. The ribs have pulled back off the bone. You can see that there, and they've shrunk up in size. They're to the tooth. They're still pretty firm, but we're going to pull those out. You can also see. Well, let's go ahead and pull those ribs out first, and then I'll show you the rest of it. I believe that rib has separated from its bone already. So we're going to take these and we're going to chop the meat off the bone, and then we'll put the meat back in. And if we got room, we'll put the bones back in too, because there's really no downside to that. So we'll set these over here to cool for a little bit. Meanwhile, we've got this wonderful pot of stuff. It's the sauce, it's the deglazing, there's carrots, there's celery, there's onions. Oh, you hardly see them anymore. The carrots are still there, but the other things have kind of just faded into the background. I've still got some spices I'm picking out. Maybe some thyme and some rosemary. We now have a little bit more room. So we're gonna add some we've cut up some more vegetables, some more carrots and onions and celery. Because, you know, if you're eating stew and this is all you got, you're not doing very well. So we're gonna add those back, and we'll let those cook along with the noodles that we're gonna add here in a minute. And those will be a nice fresh addition to our sauce. And then we've got lo mein noodles. Just regular old lo mein egg noodles. I use this in my chicken noodle soup too. Don't tell anybody. We're just gonna cut those up, or break those up. Kind of drop them in. We're not gonna add all of these, I don't think, at first, because we don't know how much it's gonna take. And once you put those noodles in there, you can't get them back out. There we go. We'll stop there. And we're gonna add some more broth too. Now that we got a little more room. This is gonna be so good. We'll see on the noodles, but we definitely need some more broth, or it's never gonna be soup. There, we'll go with that. Once again, we can always add more. Although we can't take the broth back out just by letting it simmer. We call that reducing in the cooking world. Okay, we're gonna let that simmer. Meanwhile, we're gonna go cut some meat off the bone. Beef short ribs that have been braising for 2.5-ish hours, and we're just gonna separate those from the bone as best we can. Maybe just by sliding it right off. And then we're going to cut that up. Cut it up into bite-sized pieces, and add it back to the pan where it can continue to render along with everything else. Oh. We don't want to get it too small pieces because it's going to continue to break up as we go. But it's really tasty. That's going to make a great beef and noodles. You can tell from the way the knife goes through it, it's like a hot knife through butter. Make sure you get some of those cuts across the grain. It'll eat better that way. See those grain lines? See if you just run a cut right across there, then it'll fall apart in your mouth when you eat it. There's another one right there. It's cutting really easy across that grain though. Okay, you get the general idea. I'm going to add this back to the stew. Well, look at what we have. We've added all the beef back to the stew pot. We've added all the 8 ounces of lo mein noodles back to the stew pot. And we even added 3 of the rib bones. See those rib bones back to the stew pot just to simmer and cook, because there's no downside to that. Boy, does this just look beautiful. And it smells so good. And I gotta tell you, as good as it looks. That gravy just is out of this world good. Man, the complexity, the depth of flavor. Oh, that is good. Comfort food at its finest. You got beef, you got noodles, you got ribs, you got all hours of cooking going into it. We'll give this another 20 minutes or so, then we'll dig in. I tell you, I could just sit here and stir it all day. Oh wait, I have been stirring it all day. Look at those big hunks of beef in there. See you in 20 minutes. Well, look what we have done. It may have taken all day, but we finally got our stew done. Look at that, just beautiful bowl of stew. And I tell you what, if you're gonna hang out in my kitchen all day, you either ought to start paying rent or you ought to subscribe. So I'm just saying, thank you. So we got braised short rib noodle stew. Oh man. The meat just melts in your mouth. The noodles just slide down your throat. Everything is so comforting. The carrots just melt in your mouth. That's the second batch carrots. The first batch carrots are long gone. They're all in the broth. Oh man, this is good. Wow. That's really, really good. And you know what? You could serve that over mashed potatoes later if you wanted to, and I wouldn't object. Well, we made braised short rib noodle stew today, and man is it good, and man is it comfort food. It makes you feel good when you're making it, it makes you feel good when you're eating it, and man, it sure makes the cold weather go by. This has been Paul Plays with Fire. Thanks for watching. Yeah, subscribe button right up there. Watch that next video too while you're at it. See you next time.